Oh, wonderful.
I'm trying so hard to
Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is a clip. Are you sure it's? Oh yeah. From the movie because you'll see, but they're trying to explain God, and it's hilarious. Okay, go ahead. Is it loud enough?
What is this?
This is the church where someone named God lives.
Who's God?
It's a bit confusing. God is a shepherd.
So he could be our shepherd?
No, because he's also a lamb.
What?
And he's also invisible. And he's made of bread. And he dams things.
Dams things? Like a beaver?
Yes.
So God is a big invisible lamb beaver made of bread?
Yes. And they eat him on Sundays. Poor God.
Poor God. Was it really? Oh, that's hilarious. I just think that's hilarious, and I just want to watch it over and over. He's a big invisible lamb beaver that. Poor God. Anyways, I don't know. Other announcements? Oh, hey, go skating tonight.
4 o'clock, $3.
4 o'clock. Oh, 4 o'clock. Never? Did you do it before? I just eat food. Wow. Okay, when is this? August 14th. Is it a Friday?
Yeah.
Sup, Dan?
Sign up in the coffee shop.
Okay.
Pay your money ASAP. No, we have a set amount of tickets, so once they're gone, they're gone.
Oh, you literally can't get more?
If we bought too many tickets, then I'm responsible for scouting them in the front gate.
Oh, that's fun.
I'm kidding.
How do they pay?
You can pay to your pastor.
Eventually we'll have a spot where you can go and pay. We're getting there. Okay, so what day is this? Oh, like 2 days later?
Yes.
Holy moly. Okay, wow, I didn't plan that well. So we're gonna have pickleball tournament and ice cream. Bring what you like, or toppings, or whatever. And what else? If you want to bring money for pizza, we'll just order something. I don't know. That'll be fun. It's gonna be at our house. So we're gonna put our little pickleball net in our driveway and draw our own lines. It's probably not even gonna be right, but that's okay. It'll be fun. And then we'll just. Yeah, but how are you gonna play basketball and pickleball at the same time? You can't play pickleball on the grass.
Or I can wheel it to the bottom of the street.
Okay, whatever.
Back when we were kids, we did.
You just play wherever, huh?
Play wherever.
Okay. Well, you guys can play wherever you want to. Whatever. Anyways, we live down the road, so it's easy to get to. Oh, seriously?
Everything that's happened this year is on the weekend.
Wow. I think he planned it that way. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Oh, good job. Wow. Yeah, they're dumb. Yeah. Yeah, true. Okay, anyways, so this lesson is rather, what word should I use? It's just a lot. Mostly because I was just telling him, like, they're literally cramming an entire book of the Bible into one day. I'm like, why are we doing this? I don't know, whatever. So even as I was like studying, I'm like, holy moly, how do I get all that compacted? I don't know. Because look at all these notes. Look at this. Like tons and tons of pages. I'm like, seriously, that's forever long. So anyways, I'm going to try my best to just cram it. I don't know. We'll see what we can get through, okay? Okay, so we're going to talk about Job, and I'm going to read Job 1, mostly just because it gives you sort of what's happening at the beginning. Are you guys familiar with Job? I think it's a pretty well-known story, even if you're not like a churchgoer. But just in case you're not, he goes through a lot of stuff, like horrible stuff. And then at the end, it's a happy ending, which is good. But so we're going to read just chapter 1 real quick. Oh, stink. I was going to bring my glasses. If I sound illiterate, I swear I'm not. I just need my glasses. I was like, dang it. Every time lately when I've been reading, I'm like, oh my gosh, I sound like I can't read at all. I just can't see. Okay, so I'm going to read Job chapter 1. And then Okay. And then just for like some context, this is kind of happening right after Joseph dies. So Joseph, gets to Egypt, becomes like second in command, takes over the world, all his family comes to live there. So a little bit after Joseph dies, but before Moses is born. Like, so this is kind of like, and obviously like he's not a Jew, he's not a Hebrew. So he lives in Edom. Okay. So it's like kind of where Jordan and Syria are right now. So anyways, that's just kind of what's going on. Okay. So it says, there was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was blameless and upright, one who feared God and turned away from evil. There were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters. He possessed 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 female donkeys, and very many servants, so that this man was the greatest of all the people of the East. Somewhere in these notes, it's kind of funny because they end up saying he's the original goat. Like, he's the greatest of all time. Like, okay. Whatever. Just because that verse. Okay.
She doesn't learn that word.
No, I didn't. Get out of here. His sons used to go and hold a feast in the house of each one on his day, and they would send and invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. And when the days of the feast had run their course, Job would send and consecrate them. And he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, "It may be that my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." Thus Job did continually. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. The Lord said to Satan, "From where have you come?" Satan answered the Lord and said, "From going to and fro on the earth, and from walking up and down on it." And the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil?" And then Satan answered the Lord and said, "Does Job fear God for no reason? Have you not put a hedge around him and his house and all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your face." And the Lord said to Satan, "Behold, all that he has is in your hand. Only against him do not stretch out your hand." So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. Now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And there came a messenger to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them, and the Sabaeans fell upon them and took them and struck down the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you." While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, "The fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I alone have escaped to tell you." While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, The Chaldeans formed 3 groups and made a raid on the camels and took them and struck down the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. And while he was yet speaking, there came another and said, "Your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, and behold, a great wind came across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young people, and they are dead, and I alone have escaped to tell you." Then Job arose and tore his robe and shaved his head and fell on the ground and worshipped. And he said, Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job did not sin or charge God with wrong. Okay, so this whole chapter, like, wow, that was a lot. Just happened there. But as you can see, I mean, I can't even imagine, like, while one of them's talking and another one runs in and then like, what is happening? I mean, as a person, I think your mind would just be spinning. Like, I don't even know how to take all this in, the shock of like everything. That would be a lot for anybody. So the book of Job is kind of thought as like the most depressing book in the Bible, except for the fact that it has a great ending. So we probably don't really study the book of Job like we should. Unless you're like going through a trial, then it's like, oh yeah, let me go read Job. And then it's like, oh yeah, I can put that away. We don't really like, that's not really something we study like a lot. But there are some interesting things through this book that are really helpful. Some of the preachers of the past spent significant time preaching from the book of Job. The 17th century Scottish preacher George Hutchinson preached 316 sermons from the book of Job. That's a lot. And see, like I told you, I'm trying to squeeze it all into one day. Like, this is insane. Joseph Carroll of London, later succeeded by John Owen, took 23 years to preach through the book of Job. That's 424 sermons from Job, which were published as a massive 12-volume set. Yet, as he preached the last sermon, he said, I have not attained so clear an understanding of some passages. That's insane. Truly, there is much to be gleaned from this book, and yet, like the suffering in our own lives, there's much that we can't fully understand. So, if you ever go back and you want to study through this a little more, there are going to be a lot of pieces where you're like, I don't even understand what that's talking about. Don't feel bad about that. That happens throughout the whole Bible. But if you grew up in church at all or anything like that, even if you didn't, the story of Job, like the righteous and wealthy farmer with 10 children who lost it all in an instant, like that might sound somewhat familiar. You might even be able to tell the story. But as familiar as we may be with what the facts are, the why questions about the things that happened to him can still kind of linger in our minds. We're kind of like, even we can look at it and be like, I don't, like, why did that happen? I don't understand. And it's nice to know the context of, like, we can see the side where we read about how Satan went to heaven to talk to God and all that. So, like, we can kind of see the background part of it, whereas Job didn't see that. So it is kind of nice to be like, oh, well, it's okay. God had it under control, But obviously, when you're in the moment like that, it's like you don't see those kind of things. Like, you don't know, how to understand some of it. We too often encounter circumstances in our lives that we try to make sense of, but simply can't. And like Job, we are faced with some questions. What are we to do when there is seemingly no reason to suffering? How are we to trust in a God who allows this kind of suffering? I remember there's a teenage girl that was here in our youth group, and she came on the bus and stuff. And here and there, I kind of run into her, like at the pool or wherever. She's now married with a baby. I think she was getting her teaching degree or something. But every now and then, I would run into her, and we would sit and talk about God. And she would tell me how she just has a hard time wrapping her mind around, like, trusting a God who allows suffering. Especially in her mind. I remember talking to her dad one time about it, like, about kids who, get abused or whatever. Like, she's like, I don't know. Like, I can't get around that. Like, and for years, I mean, she's really struggled with, like, her faith because of that very question, and I think, a lot of us who, we might have that question too, but we kind of maybe come to grips with God in other ways. And so we're like, well, I don't understand that either, but I trust him maybe because of this or that. And so, but I just felt bad because she's, she just really struggled. But anyway, so number one, am I supposed to do something? Okay. So number one, we're going to talk about the devotion of Job. Okay. We have a tendency to assume that good people, or those who are trying to do right and do their best to live for God, shouldn't suffer. And even if we kind of know that that's not necessarily true, I think we just naturally have this, like, they're doing good. They're probably living for God or whatever, Yet, as the Bible introduces us to Job, we immediately learn that he is a good man who feared God and loved his family. So that wasn't necessarily the case, right? So let's see, what are the things that he was blessed with? So first, he was blessed with his family, right? We saw that he had, gosh, how many kids did he have? Like 10 kids or something? I don't even remember. He had like a lot of kids. Was it 10? Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, that's a lot nowadays, but back then, I mean, everyone had probably big families and all that, but still, like, they were a huge blessing, And then Job had his fortune, right? He was pretty rich, especially even in those days. He was a very wealthy man. In verse 3, it says his substance also was 7,000 sheep and 3,000 camels and 500 yoke of oxen and 500 she-asses and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the East. So, I mean, he had status and he had substance. I mean, he had it all, kind of. So he had his family, he had his fortune, and then he had his faith. So it's clear that, like, the way God talks about him in heaven, and even at the end of chapter 1, when it says, like, he arose and tore his robe and shaved his head and fell on the ground and worshipped, like, that doesn't seem to go together. That he's just heard all this, information, he's taking it in, and what does he do? He worships, like, obviously with the combination of him being completely distraught, but, like, wow, to fall and just worship, like, that's an incredible response. So anyways, Job had this testimony, though, of being perfect and upright. In verse 1, it says, there was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, one that feared God and eschewed evil. So it's obviously not talking about, like, he's perfect, like, without sin, but he was, like, morally upright, right? Like, he was doing the right things. And our world is full of people who have the status and they have the substance and all of that. But do they have the significance in their life of what they're offering and what they're portraying? Because a lot of people are looking for that kind of thing in the wrong places, right? So they are looking for it, oh gosh, I don't know, in lots of different ways, based on maybe how they grew up. If they had a good family life or they didn't, maybe they're looking for it in love from other people. Maybe they just want to belong. Maybe, I don't know. There's a number of different reasons. But our world puts too much significance on things that have no eternal value. Like, it's common for people who, especially who are not Christians, to, like, they just don't think like that, right? Like, live for now, YOLO, right? You only live once, like, like, and not that that's necessarily bad. Like, I think some of that you can have a healthy view of keeping perspective too on, like, your family and your time and how to use it and all of that. But we also have to keep in mind our eternal perspective. Like, what is our life going to be worth and look like at the end, right? What are we doing right now that has any significance for later? Because we all can have that. So just like Job, he had made his devotion to God the priority of his life. And it's a little bit sad to me that I don't know, obviously we don't see all the different details in their family dynamic and all of that. And I don't even want to assume that his kids were necessarily wicked, but we'll see too that Job, I don't know where it is somewhere. In a little bit, he ended up, like, building an altar and, like, almost asking God for forgiveness for them just in case, right? Like, so it's sad to me, like, if his kids didn't catch that same, like, passion that he had for God. I'm not really sure why that is. I don't know, but either way, he wasn't ashamed of it. Maybe when he was parenting them, maybe he didn't live for God as much, and then as he got older, things changed, and now he was. I don't know. I know, like, my grandpa, when he was, parenting my mom, my aunt, and all that, like, they weren't quite as healthy Christians. And then as we got older, my mom will always say, like, the grandpa is not the dad I knew, and I'm like, oh, sorry, like, because he had changed, and later he was really, I mean, man, he was like a man of prayer, like, all the time, like, and you could see there must have been things in his life where later on he realized that's not worth it, and it's worth it to put my time into this. So maybe that's kind of how Job was with his life. I don't know, maybe, and his kids aren't caring about that now, I don't know, or yet, maybe they'll again look back at his life later and see, I don't know. Oh, well, clearly not, they died. But you know what I mean? Like, maybe later, like, I don't know, I'm just saying, like, never mind, they're not going to catch that later, are they? But you know what I mean? Like maybe he just, because he has kids later. Anyways, clearly Job's family, fortune, and health were dear to him. He was devastated by their loss, but ultimately they weren't the central aspect of his life. It doesn't mean he didn't care about them. He was clearly distraught. Our families, marriages, and other important relationships are good. We cherish to seek and to honor God in them. But if that is all we live for, what happens when tragedy strikes? Kind of smacks you in the face, right? You kind of get put into perspective what is important and what's not. So it says Job also had a great family, but he put the Lord before his family. So he feared God. That's like he revered or worshipped and trusted God, and he deliberately avoided evil. So in Job 1:4-5, it says, and his sons went and feasted in their houses, everyone his day, and sent called for their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning, and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. And it's funny, when I was reading this, I'm like, okay, but his sacrifice and offering doesn't cover them, right? Like, wouldn't that seem weird? Like, we kind of all know that now. Like, it's not like my prayer of salvation can save someone else. Like, God, please save them. Like, no, they have to choose for themselves, right? So when I first read that, I was like, okay. I don't know. But I think what it is after the feast, Job made an altar and worshiped the Lord, interceding before him on behalf of his children. He did this just in case his children had grieved the Lord God. And incidentally, this doesn't necessarily mean that Job's children were wicked. I don't know. Rather, it suggests that Job was sensitive, both personally and as the lead of his family, to the importance of being right with God. So I don't even necessarily know that it was like, I'm going to, on their behalf, like, make sure they're good with God, because they have to make sure they're good with God. But I think he just was so sensitive to make sure that as a whole, like, his family was still, as much as he could, right with God. It says parents, especially fathers, but parents, we would do well to follow suit in taking seriously what it means to be the spiritual leader of the home, to be sensitive to what may grieve God, and to be on guard for that which may blaspheme his name. So this says a reverence for God and avoidance of evil are linked. So in Job 28, later on, it says, and unto man he said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. There's a quote here. I have no idea who said it, but it says, the remarkable thing about fearing God is that when you fear God, you fear nothing else. And whereas if you do not fear God, you fear everything else. That's an interesting statement. So like his relationship with God, that being so important to him, gave him strength for what was to come. So we're going to see obviously more destruction and all that happens. But because that was his heart, then that helped him, get through the other things. So we have the devastation of his life. Okay. So as we kind of go through this, we see there was a meeting that takes place in heaven. And then God draws attention to Job's righteous fear of the Lord, right? He brings that up. Satan now directly questions Job's motives, and by implication, God himself. But then Satan's argument is this: sure, Job trusts you because you've blessed him. Of course, he fears you because you protect him. So then he kind of follows up with this challenge, right? That, hey, what if, I do this or this or whatever? And in his sovereignty, God granted permission for Job's faith to be put to the test. The genuineness or lack thereof of Job's trusting faith would be proved under pressure, which is interesting, is the true quality of our faith can only be revealed under pressure as well. And there was a time when, I don't know, you guys were here, when my grandpa passed away. they were here visiting us, and it was in the fall of 2020, and then they all got COVID. My grandpa, my grandma, and my aunt. And then my grandpa had to go to the hospital, and then my aunt went like a few days later. The next day she was dead, and then 11 days later he was dead. And then my grandma, she never had to go to the hospital, but she ended up going back home by herself. They had drove out here, and during that time, like I remember after that, like growing a lot through that and thinking, later I remember thinking, like, does that mean every time you want to grow really deep like that you have to go through something hurtful? And I just remember like asking God that, like, I don't know if that's true, but I do know that when those things do happen and they're deep like that, you can grow a lot a lot in ways that you wouldn't probably grow otherwise. And to be honest, there have been times since then where I'm like afraid to ask for that kind of growth, because I know how painful that was. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to go through that again, or what is that going to mean, even before that happened, I remember praying, like, God, I really, really want to grow deep. And there were a couple different people I remember watching on social media and stuff, friends from college and whatever. And they each had gone through different things. This one lady had gone through cancer, and I couldn't believe how much she still was just living life with her husband, and just, they would travel. She was just always so happy and joyful. Like, and it was like incredible because she knew she was dying. Like that was it. And then this other family had 4 boys, and they were not planning to have any more kids at all. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they got pregnant. And they were like, oh, stinks. Like, okay, cool, And right at the end, they lost the baby. And she had to still give birth and all of that. And I just remember watching them like walk through that, and I could not believe like how much joy they still had. Like, and watching these different people, I remember thinking, God, I really want that. I want that joy. And I was afraid, though, to pray that because I didn't know what that was going to mean. And then this happened with my grandpa that year. And my grandpa was like my dad to me. We were really, really close. So, that was really, really hard. But I remember, like, man, the deep, deep questioning and growth and prayer and time with God was just like, it was incredible. And about a year, I don't know, maybe a year and a half after that happened, I remember just kind of praying and thinking, like, and I remember like the Holy Spirit just kind of speaking to me, like, if you could go back, or even right now, if you could have him back instead and undo all of this, and I could give him right back to you, would you want him back? And I remember thinking, no, I don't think so. As much as I love him and would love to have him back, that growth and depth that I remember happening from that, there's nothing like it. And there's no way I would have ever had that if he wouldn't have taken him. And I felt like, wow, I think I even shocked myself that I even said that, because I would have never said that before. Never. But I'm telling you, like, the kind of depth and pain and I don't know, just the amount that you just reach to him and search for him, and that you're stretched and grown is incredible. And I often think, like, I'm sure, I mean, Job's trials were way, way worse than what I went through. But like, man, I I think when Job is at the end, I can imagine that's how he felt. As much as that was so painful, I don't know that I'd go back. And you'll see later, like he ends up, having more kids and all of that. It's incredible. But so I'm just gonna run through this. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to say all that right then. But anyways, so all that to say, the true quality of our faith can only be revealed under pressure. These kind of moments can change everything. In a single day, Job's possessions, his livelihood, his family, all were gone. And as we know from the rest of the story, that was Job's immediate loss. That was just his immediate loss. There was more to come. As the story continues, God points out that Job holdeth fast his integrity in chapter 2, verse 3. In response, Satan insists that if God allows Job's own bone and flesh to be afflicted, then he will curse thee to thy face. And God agrees to allow this. So now, not only he lost everything, but now well, let's take it a step further and mess up his health. And God agrees to allow this, specifying only that Satan is not to take Job's life. And then let me see, chapter 2, verse 12, it's really sad because at first in chapter 2, his friends come. His 3 friends heard all of this evil that had come upon him, and they came each from his own place. And then skip down. They made an appointment together to come to show him sympathy and comfort him. And when they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him. And they raised their voices and wept. And they tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads toward heaven. And they sat with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his suffering was very great. That just says a lot, right? When his friends are like, wow, I don't even know what to say. We're just going to sit here with you and cry. Even in the midst of all this, his wife right before that was like, just curse God and die. Just forget it all. It's crazy. But Job's friends showed up for him, and initially they did well. Unfortunately, throughout the story, they don't do so well. But at least at first there, it's kind of a nice moment. Later on, they end up, they had some doctrine correct. The reality that suffering is sometimes the result of sin, it can be true. And it turned into the universal maxim that suffering is always the result of sin. And that they misapplied truth to Job's life in a way that is profoundly hurtful and sad. We can learn from Job's friends that sometimes the best way we can bring comfort is by showing up and weeping with someone who is grieving. So we have to be careful because sometimes true statements can be used unwisely, right? And we have to be careful how and when we say them. The devastation of life can indeed come to devoted, godly people. So what should we do? We're on point 3. Do you have to... Holy crap, look at all that. I'm telling you guys, that's a lot to put in one day. Nuh-uh. Seriously. We can't do this next week? I'm going to put him on pressure. Put pressure on him. Sorry, guys. Good grief. Okay. Well, anyways, number 3 is the declaration of truth. I'll give you the other blanks, then we'll see what we do. So letter A is what God knows. And then letter B is what we know. Is that it? I think that's it, right? Yeah, but I don't want to kill it. I don't want to give it away. It's there's a whole bunch, you guys. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll read this very end thing. Okay, so it says the story of Job ends with restoration. He is vindicated by God, his friends are rebuked, and Job intercedes with grace on their behalf and offers forgiveness. As Warren Worsby, however the heck you say that guy's name, pointed out in his commentary on this book, the glorious end of Job's story assures us that no matter what happens to us, God always writes the last chapter of our life stories. Therefore, we don't have to be afraid. We can trust God to do what is right, no matter how painful our situation might be. Not every story of human suffering ends with restoration in this life, unfortunately. But for every believer, full restoration is coming, if not today, in the very presence of God in heaven for all eternity. And like Job, we can know that our stories will turn out for God's glory and our good. We can trust the same author who wrote the book of Job to write the last chapter of our own lives and to do it well. I don't know. We'll see what we can do. Maybe we can talk him into next week. I don't know. Why does this have to go like so many weeks? Dumb.